myself, my law firm, Marco Law, along with my co-counsel, uh, Noah Hurwitz of Ann Arbor and Hurwitz Law, have continued the fight for answers for these young women and others who've been affected from this data breach due to Matthew Weiss and the University of Michigan and their inaction and done completely nothing over the past 3 years to protect these women. Over the weekend, just yesterday in federal court, we amended our lawsuit to bring the total women of over 40 women now. And I want to give a special thank you to McKenzie Johnson, who's the first woman who has identified herself by name to speak out on behalf of not only herself, but on behalf of all these women who've been victimized and who've been exposed and damaged by the University of Michigan and Matthew Weiss in this entire ordeal. Ms. Johnson's going to read a statement and give a brief overview of how this has affected her today. Ms. Johnson played softball from 2015 to 2019 for Grambling State University. And what's interesting, and as you're going to see from the complaint that we filed and from Ms. Johnson, is this affected not only our athletes here in Michigan and not only the Wolverines, but this affected women all over the country who've been exposed and had their data breached and now have a lot more questions than they do of answers due to the University of Michigan's utter failure to protect this data to make sure that its employees were doing what they were supposed to be doing. And then when they found out about it, they've done nothing in the past 3 years to try to notify these women, to try to allow them to take action to protect themselves. Look, when there's a data breach, many of us have received notices, whether through email or through the mail, that says, hey, your data might have been exposed. You might want to take some precautions. You might want to change your passwords. You might want to do some things to protect yourself. And the University of Michigan hasn't done that. Instead, Ms. Johnson and others had to be notified by the Department of Justice that their data had been exposed and that there was a breach and that their most private, sensitive, intimate videos, data, photos have been taken by a strange man and are now apparently on servers at the University of Michigan. And that is not what should have happened. That is not how you handle a situation like this. The University of Michigan is known for 3 years. In fact, the University of Michigan never sent a communication to these young women, despite having knowledge that there was a data breach. The University of Michigan police raided Weiss's home on January 10th of 2023 and seized electronic devices. That would have been a nice time to tell these thousands, tens of thousands, potentially, of people that their data could have been exposed and were sitting on servers and out there, God knows where, potentially being accessed by others and available, yet the university did nothing. The university did not notify these individuals so that they could take action to protect themselves, so that they could change their passwords, so that they could have answers and know this. And so this is a nightmare for these, for McKenzie Johnson and for the other women who've been exposed and who've been victimized by Matthew Weiss and by the university, some of which they had no connection to the university, yet the university did nothing. Thousands of candid, intimate photographs and videos have been seized from storage accounts. Many show victims naked, and some show victims engaging in personal things. And that is why yesterday I filed, along with Hurwitz Law, a motion with the federal court for a temporary restraining order to immediately have the University of Michigan take any data, any personal data for these individuals who deserve protection under the law, to take that data and immediately place it in a secure, trusted, neutral third party where we know that it's safe. And because we don't know that it's safe with the University of Michigan. And these young women do not trust the University of Michigan, given its failures over the last 3 years, its continued failures, not only on this case, but as we've seen on many other cases over the years, such as the Dr. Anderson case, that they cannot be trusted. And these women do not want to have the university have custody of this personal data. So because of that, we're asking the federal court to order that any data that is currently in the possession of the university be turned over. It should have been turned over before. It should not have taken these courageous individuals to have to come forward, to have to put themselves out there on behalf of themselves and others to get the university to do what it should have done in the first place. At this time, McKenzie, if you would like to give a statement, and thank you. You're so brave on behalf of not only myself and the other people that are involved on this, but you're so brave to come forward and to take a stand against this to try to help other individuals.
Thank you so much, John, for your kind words. And thank you for everyone that's on this call. My name is McKenzie Johnson. I played softball at Grambling State University from 2015 to 2019. I recently learned that my private information was stolen by a University of Michigan football coach, and that information was used to hack into my personal email and social media accounts back in 2022. I don't know yet what information was stolen, so I have a great deal of fear and uncertainty about this situation, honestly. I was informed by the university and the Department of Justice this year that I was a victim of a cyber attack. The University of Michigan has never notified me about this privacy violation, so I had no opportunity to personally protect myself. I don't understand how something like this could happen. It's my goal from this lawsuit to learn more about what has occurred. I can personally say that I'm very anxious about what will come from this and what personal information that he has stolen from me. So I will turn it back over to John. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, McKenzie, and thank you for being so brave, because this is going to help many other individuals. It's going to help make sure that we get them answers, and it's going to help make sure that this doesn't happen again to anybody else. I'll take some brief questions before we close it down for today. But I would say that many of our clients, many of these young women, first of all, there's going to be more. Okay, we have more even today that we're going to be amending and filing a third amended complaint on behalf of these individuals. And I would like to say that they are sharing the same anxiety, fears, and concern that McKenzie has, that there has still not been full explanation and accountability on what data has been stolen. And make no mistake about it, this has been stolen. This is every individual's personal property that they had stored in what was supposed to be secure accounts, where only they and people that they chose on the time that they chose and the way that they chose and what they chose to be shared in their property has been stolen from them. And they're terrified about it. They want answers, and this is going to affect them, and this is going to affect others. And it's going to get worse. I think the more that that comes out, it's going to be shown to the public that this is a lot worse than you think. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm happy to answer any questions. I see Ed White has turned his camera on. I don't know if Mr. White has any questions or anybody else before we take a.
John, yeah, John, thank you. I have a couple questions for McKenzie and for you. McKenzie, do you fear that private images of you have been acquired by in this case? Is that one of your fears?
Absolutely. So again, my email and personal social media accounts were compromised. So that is certainly a fear of mine.
So you had some private images stored on your personal accounts.
Ed, let me answer. And Ed, everybody has private images. Mostly everybody has private images stored on their accounts. Remember, this is iCloud data is part of what was taken is our understanding, which the default setting on these phones is to back up your videos and your photos and sometimes messages and all kinds of other things that could have been jeopardized and stolen. We know that photos were taken from countless individuals.
But okay, John, I want to ask you, you mentioned the University of Michigan. One thing I'm trying to understand is that at some point, the U of M police turned this over to the FBI. Apparently, it was bigger than they could handle, and perhaps this had, this reached far and wide, which is what we found. I'm trying to understand why you're saying that the University of Michigan at this point has some sort of role as a custodian and should protect this stuff. If this was on the coach's devices, wouldn't the FBI have all this stuff? I'm trying to understand at this point what your beef is with U of M.
Well, Ed, first of all, we have a lot of beef with U of M. So this was an employee of U of M. If one of my lawyers handles your lawsuit and blows the case, the company is responsible. The university is responsible for its employees who are using their access that they gained access through virtue of the relationship with the university. The university is responsible. They have an obligation to protect their students, others. Also, this isn't like, 100 years ago where they seized a bunch of Polaroid pictures from Mr. Weiss's home and then put them in a safe somewhere. As you know, with electronic media, it is stored on servers. It can be transmitted very easily. There's copies that are instantaneously made and transmitted. So we don't have guarantees that the university has protected and will continue to protect and has not allowed the security of the data. We know that they haven't secured the data in the first place by virtue of it being stolen from these individuals. So we know that they seized Matthew Weiss's electronic devices, including that data. And so we need confirmation. We need an order that this will be disgorged and secured outside of the university. It should not be in the university's hands. It's not.
Well, but John, that's my point. Isn't it possible the FBI has all this stuff? That's my point. I'm trying to understand at this point with this 2-year investigation. I mean, isn't the FBI running this now? What do you think U of M has?
Well, sure.
Sure. I'm not saying they're not responsible for what happened. What I'm saying is what they have right now. I mean, I'm assuming the FBI has that.
Well, so you're making an assumption that I don't think is supported, that that U of M took the data, provided it to the FBI in original form, and did not retain any custody of any duplicate or copy or remnants of that data. And we certainly, the way that this has been handled, we don't believe that necessarily to be true. And we want to make sure that there is no data that is unsecured or that is being retained by the university outside of this, because the people don't trust the university to have their data, and they shouldn't have had it in the first place.
Thank you.
And so, so that's the issue. Now, the FBI is a whole different animal there.
Right.
But the university failed, and they should not have custody of any data. Okay, right. I'll go. I know Anna. I know you raised your hand. I see you from the Michigan Advance.
Hi, I have 2 questions. And first off, thank you for sharing your perspective, McKenzie. I know you don't know us, so I really appreciate it. I was wondering what went into your decision to make your name public. There's 50 plus other women who have joined this effort who have remained anonymous. Why use your name?
Hopefully to bring more awareness to the situation. Again, as a woman, it's very sensitive information that's compromised. So my hope is just to empower other women to come forward and then bring light to this situation.
Mhm. Are you hopeful that other people might, use their platforms and use their name and um, identify themselves as a member of XY sports team and kind of join you in that effort?
The additional support will be greatly appreciated. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first one in is always difficult, right? And as you've seen, because of the sensitive nature of this case, because of the sensitive nature of the material that was seized, there's been a reluctance on behalf and an understandable reluctance on individuals to come forward. And that's why we're so thankful for McKenzie for being so brave and empowering other women as well to be able to come forward.
And then one other question, sorry, I snuck another one in that one. In both of y'all's opinion and experience, what was U of M's responsibility to alert other universities, and has your university been alerted, McKenzie, and has there been any response?
Well, let me address with regard to the university's obligations. The university certainly had an obligation, and they should have done it years ago, when they had knowledge that data had been inappropriately stolen from young women from one of its coaches, using his position in order to do so and using tools that he had access to from the university. There should have been an immediate action. There should have been an immediate attempts to notify individuals so they could protect themselves. Just because the first thing that you do when you get a notification that, oh my God, there might have been a data breach, you can change your password. You can ask questions to try to determine what was stolen and how it could affect you. I mean, these phishing scams, I know probably many people out there, I mean, they happen almost daily, right? And the first thing that you do if there's a data breach or there's a compromise is you want to make sure that you're not further damaged or that further information or data isn't stolen from you or exploited from you. So the university had a duty not only to its students, not only to its employees, but to everybody who was affected in this case, including McKenzie across the country, because of the actions of its employee and the university's failure to protect. Okay, I see Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry. Has there been any response from Grambling University? Grambling State University?
McKenzie, you can answer that with regards to your particular university, but I don't know how they would know that if the U of M and its employees are responsible for a private data breach. It would be primarily incumbent on the University of Michigan to take action. It wasn't Grambling University's employee who did this. Okay, Eric.
Hi, thank you. Eric Heisig, Bloomberg Law. I had a couple quick questions. One is just a follow-up, I think, from what Mr. White was talking about. Do you think there is any possibility, or do you know if there's any possibility if the FBI told Michigan not to, let any of the victims know as to not compromise any sort of investigation? That seems like it's very in line with what the FBI would do in situations like this, although...
Yeah, Eric, I'm not going to speculate on what the FBI did or didn't do in this case because at this point, we don't know. And the FBI has to do what the FBI does. And they do it pursuant to their internal procedures and their customs. And they want to protect individuals and they want to protect their investigation. But that doesn't relieve the university. A police investigation doesn't relieve the university for years of failing to protect the individuals who are subject to the data breach. So the FBI has to do what the FBI has to do. The university has to do what the university should do, and they failed to do it in this case.
Okay. The other question I had, and this is more for you. I know you're not the only lawyer and set of law firms that have brought these kind of claims. The numbers are growing.
Sure.
Where do all these cases kind of go so they may end up in the same place at some point? Like, how does that kind of work in this situation?
Yeah, Eric. So what's happened is all the cases have been consolidated in federal court now, in front of a single judge. In this case, it's Judge Goldsmith. He's a federal judge. He was assigned the first case. We were the second case that was filed. Our case was then moved to him, and all the other cases that were filed are moved to him. And so what's going to happen is once the dust settles, so to speak, because as you can see, a lot of other cases have been filed. There probably will be more that are going to be filed. There's going to be more individuals that come forward and that want to participate. From a management standpoint, they'll most likely all continue to go before Judge Goldsmith, and then they'll be consolidated in some form or another. In other words, they'll be kind of put together, at least for processing, or in other words, discovery of the case. So there won't be, 15, 20 different or more different cases kind of going out on their own. So that'll be together. And I've been in contact with some of the other attorneys from who represent the women in some of the other lawsuits. And so there'll be some collaboration that's just part of this process, whether we like it or not, that we're going to have to work together towards a common goal, which is going to be for the betterment of everyone as it relates to moving forward, which is common in these types of cases. In the last University of Michigan large case that involved over 1,000 victims related to Dr. Anderson, there was many different lawsuits that were filed, and the court in that case had a leadership committee appointed, which is the leading attorneys were on a committee who helped make decisions together in a collective and collaborative way, and then they litigated the case kind of as a single unit. There's going to be a lot of cooks in the kitchen, there's no doubt about it, but I think that leading firms such as my firm and some other leading firms out there will take control of the litigation and move it forward.
Thank you.
Randy, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And McKenzie, thank you for your courage in coming forward and sharing your story publicly. A question for you and also for Mr. Marco. McKenzie, were you aware of the situation before the feds reached out to you and told you that your information and images, video, whatever, was compromised as well? Were you aware of the situation with Weiss beforehand? And two, once you found out about this, once you got the call or the email, or say, from the DOJ, walk us through just what was running through your mind sort of hearing this. And after you go, Mr. John, if you can is there any way that people can find out if they too were victims? I know that the DOJ is reaching out to people, but are there any other ways if some people were missed for folks to find out if they were in fact also victimized in this situation? But McKenzie, if you can.
Go ahead, McKenzie, and then I'll answer with regard to the latter.
Yes, sir. So I was notified numerous times by the Department of Justice. I was just very taken back, as I'm a very young professional. I'm in a Fortune 500 company. I work diligently and using my degree from Grambling State University very well at this point. So I think that's my pause, is I don't know what's to come of this or what's going to be exposed as I'm, in corporate America. I'm just kind of taken back by that.
And with regard to your question about others, I think it's going to continue. Like I said, this is the tip of the iceberg. I think as we peel back the layers of this rotten onion that the University of Michigan has created, that we're going to discover that there's going to be different entanglements out there, that there's going to be additional women and individuals. This is part of the reason a motion's been filed in federal court to allow immediate discovery, which means that, we know that through this discovery process, that the tools that we have through a lawsuit, subpoenas, power to put people under oath and take depositions, that we're going to discover and make sure that we look in every corner, in addition to what the FBI has already done, and they're usually very, very thorough. But we will be looking at that. We're going to have computer experts look at that. And I wish we had answers right now. And that's part of the problem, is for many of these women, they have not been given full answers yet. And so that's what we're going to be moving as quickly as we can to get those answers within the court process. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Thank you
Hey,
McKenzie.
John, can I just ask one more quick question for
Sure, Ed, you
clarification?
can always ask one more, Ed.
For clarification, McKenzie, can you tell us when you got your notification? This guy was indicted in late March. Was it shortly after that, or was it earlier this year?
The tail end of last year. I'm not sure of the specific date, but it was Q4 of last year.
Okay, and you just had really no sense of the breadth of this at that time.
Absolutely. It's still very progressive. So I'm just gathering more information as this progresses.
But at that time, you didn't realize how big this might be.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Ed. Good to see you. Good to see you, everybody. Thank you so much. And we look forward to getting more answers as this case continues.